video, I'm just gonna go and find something else to chit chat about. Y'all, welcome in the building. Happy Sunday fun day. Y'all, we are here to talk about the Alexander brothers. Y'all, they have done the ultimate disgusting, disgraceful thing to women, and they are saying to a minor. If you guys join me, I started my live just a few minutes ago, then came back because YouTube was tripping with no maps, and I wanted to go ahead and talk about these brothers because their case is coming up, and I'm very interested in what is going on in their case. But y'all, we're gonna go and listen to Law and Crime and see what exactly these brothers did according to what Jesse Weber at Law and Crime says. Now, we know that these brothers are at the MDC with Diddy over there in New York, but y'all, these brothers are rich real estate brothers, very, very, very filthy rich real estate brother moguls. So y'all, let's go ahead and get into it and let's see what is going on, y'all. Let's see. What is going on? Welcome in. Smash the like button. Let me move this out of the way. Let's see what we got over here. Let me get situated. Welcome in. Welcome in. Okay, there we go. Welcome in, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get back into it. So let's go ahead and get it started, y'all.
They call a calculated high-end trafficking operation. And I'm going to break it all down right now with someone who knows a thing or two about advanced sexual abuse cases. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is another Law and Crime legal alert. If you receive Depo-Provera birth control shots,
okay, we're gonna skip that.
Of women and girls. These are the allegations from prosecutors, and now federal prosecutors have unveiled a shocking superseding indictment against real estate moguls Oren and Tal Alexander, along with their brother Alon, revealing just disturbing new details about what they describe as a brutal and premeditated sex trafficking conspiracy. Now, these new charges, which were filed on May 8th in the Southern District of New York, they allege a pattern of drugging, raping, coercing women, including one underage girl, across state and international lines. And we're going to be talking about the allegations dating back to 2009. But this latest indictment tacks on 6 additional charges from the previous indictment that was filed in New York federal court. And these guys, once celebrated in elite social circles, these brothers saw their empire fall in December of 2024 when they were arrested during a morning FBI raid at their Miami Beach homes. The initial indictment charged them with trafficking 2 women, but prosecutors now say the scheme was far more extensive. Oren and Tal, they were star brokers at Douglas Elliman before launching their own firm called Official, where they brokered record-breaking deals, including a $240 million Manhattan penthouse sale. Alon worked in private security, but according to prosecutors, still allegedly participated in this trafficking ring. And all 3 are currently being held in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. And now, this superseding indictment outlines a years-long alleged operation. It reads, quote, to carry out and facilitate their sex trafficking scheme, Alon Alexander, Oren Alexander, and Tal Alexander, the defendants, used deception, fraud, and coercion to cause victims to travel with them or meet them in private locations. Thereafter, the Alexander brothers used various methods, including drugging the victims and at times physical force to rape and sexually assault the victims, sometimes alone and sometimes together. Now, we have the indictment. We're going to go through all of these details and the law as well. But first, I want to bring on a special guest to help me break it all down. I'm joined by...
So y'all, welcome in. Happy Sunday fun day, y'all. We are going over the Alexander brothers, y'all. They have done worse things than Diddy. There is 3 brothers. It's a set of twins and then another brother. They have been indicted, y'all. Theirs at the MDC. They were doing all kind of nasty, disgusting things. Gaku says, I'm good. How are you? Say it with me again. Cool. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, cool, right? Goku. Is it Goku? Goku or just Ku? Let me know, because I want to get your name right. But these brothers are disgusting, and they are saying that these brothers, they have at least one minor that I know of that they were sex trafficking. So y'all, this situation is crazy, but y'all, let's go ahead and continue, because I'm telling you, this case and this situation is one of the ones I want to keep up with, because their case, I believe, is coming up in February at the New York federal courthouse, and I want to go there if it's, I don't know how cold it's going to be, but I'm going to see. But I do want to go to their court hearing, their court case, because this is a lot. I mean, y'all, this is worse than what Diddy was doing when it comes to minors. Remember they were saying Diddy had a minor, but y'all, we never seen any minors, no minors testifying. Justin Bieber, it wasn't none of that. No Ellen DeGeneres, no Oprah. It was none of that. But y'all, with these brothers, this is a terrible situation with minors and a lot of women. But y'all, let's continue.
Sex abuse attorney and former prosecutor John Clune. John, thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you who don't know, John is recognized as one of the nation's top sexual abuse attorneys. So really, really happy to have your perspective on this.
Imagine being able to build an app with your
Okay,
name
let me
on it
skip this.
just by thinking about it. Meet Base
Uh-oh.
44.
Let me skip this commercial, you guys.
Thanks, Chad. Glad to be here.
Let's first start, what's a superseding indictment? For people who don't know, what is it? Why is it important? And also, this is a good question. Why not just file all of these charges initially back in December? I mean, why wait several months? Why not just wait to charge them with everything they were planning on charging them with?
Right. So, I mean, a superseding indictment is basically like an amended complaint. It's showing that they had additional information that came forward, and so they went back to the grand jury and asked the grand jury if they found a basis for these additional charges. Why they didn't do it all at once? It could just be that this is a kind of unfolding investigation, and they didn't have the information that they have now at the time that they made the initial indictment.
Hold on, y'all.
Once you charge somebody,
what in the world?
May come forward.
Hold on, y'all. I don't know what's going on. Hold on just a second.
Evidence you may.
Hold on just a second, you guys. I done lost the okay, there it goes. I'm like, what is going on this morning? Okay, let's continue. Gaku says, just put the jacket on. I'm allergic to the cold, but for this case, I may put the jacket on, the North Face, all the jackets and scarves and hat, because this case, I really want to be there. But y'all, let's continue. Smash the like button as you guys come in the building, y'all.
As well. But first, I want to bring on a special guest to help me break it all down. I'm joined by sex abuse attorney and former prosecutor.
Let me fast forward it.
Right. So, I mean, a superseding indictment is basically like an amended complaint. It's showing that they had additional information that came forward, and so they went back to the grand jury and asked the grand jury if they found a basis for these additional charges. Why they didn't do it all at once? It could just be that this is a kind of unfolding investigation, and they didn't have the information that they have now at the time that they made the initial indictment.
In other words, once you charge somebody, additional people may come forward, or during your investigation, particularly through obtaining evidence, you may uncover additional crimes or alleged crimes.
Right, and we see it a lot in some of these more high-profile cases where there's an initial indictment and then there's a flurry of media coverage that covers that indictment, and then more victims come forward. It can end up being a pattern that takes a while before you get to the final indictment that charges all the crimes. So there's no saying that this is going to be the last of the charges that we see for the Alexander brothers.
And when you're talking allegations back to 2009, we had the same conversation in the Diddy case. How does this not impact the statute of limitations? Is that because you may have older claims, but the federal charges, there are no statute of limitations?
That's exactly right. For sex trafficking, for the federal sex trafficking claims, there is no statute of limitations, so they can go back as long as they find the information.
But you still deal with it.
Now, like I said, you guys, Diddy was charged with all of these, trafficking charges and this, that, and the third. But these brothers, all three of them were in on the operation. Hey, Tehran, how are you? Welcome in. Happy Sunday. These three brothers were all in on this operation, and they were doing these awful things. And y'all, we're going to get into it because, y'all, these brothers are something else. One lady, she said she was introduced to them. He was being nice. Hey, love of myself, how are you? Welcome in. Happy Sunday, fun day. These brothers were being really nice. Of course, when men and even women meet, the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever, they are really nice. They're really charming until they start, turning because they're not getting what they want from you. But this is a situation with these brothers. They started doing this sick, disgusting behavior, and now they have been indicted on federal charges. But y'all, let's continue.
Long time ago. All right. So let's get right into count one. So the conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. I would argue that this is the foundation for this whole indictment. So this indictment reads.
Loving Myself says, who are we talking about? You talking about those nasty brothers? Yes, Loving Myself. These nasty brothers, remember the three brothers? They just got indicted, and they were charged with sex trafficking and an extra charge of minor sex trafficking of a minor. And these three brothers now are at the MDC with Diddy, and they are saying that I believe their court case is coming up in February, y'all. I really want to go to this court case because these brothers, all three of them on trial at the same time, that is going to be epic. But y'all, let's continue. And these brothers were filthy rich. They were real estate moguls. I mean, they were balling out of control. But y'all, let's continue. Smash the like button, y'all. Let's get the likes up. Happy Sunday Fun Day.
It's, quote, collectively, the Alexander brothers, the defendants, worked together and with others, known and unknown, to repeatedly and violently drug, sexually assault, and rape dozens of female victims.
Wow.
So, John, when you see the indictment references dozens, yet there are only, 6 alleged identified victims, even though they're not being identified per se. There's victim 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Does that mean that you're going to see...
And two of the brothers are identical twins. They are identical twins. But y'all, let's continue. Gaku says it's North Face. Okay, yeah, that part. I got one of those jackets too. I might have to put one of them on. North, south, east, west, the scarves, the everything. I'm going to have to bundle up and everything. But I do have a North Face jacket. I absolutely got one. But I'm gonna have to bundle up if I decide to go this trial with me and my baby, y'all. It's going to be bundle up time because I'm allergic to the cold. But y'all, let's continue.
Additional charges with other victims. Does that mean that you might have more people testify who are just not named as a alleged victim per se? How does it, when you see a case say multiple victims, including alleged victim 1 and alleged victim 2, what does that mean?
It probably means the latter that you suggested, that we're going to see the possibility of a number of other women testifying in the case that are not necessarily victims of charged counts. Usually, if you're going to say that there's dozens of women,
why does it keep on doing that? Hold on, you guys.
If their charges are going to come out, you're not going to mention them until you're actually filing the charges. So the fact that this indictment has come forward and they're mentioning dozens of victims, that's a signal to me that they're going to be admitted as witnesses to show some sort of pattern of conduct.
Why not just...
Ro, you was the best. Ro said P. Diddy's in Pokeland protesting. You is the best. Y'all smash the like button. Y'all, let's get the likes up.
I don't know how many they believe they have, but just for argument's sake, if they think they have 20, why not just have alleged victims 1 through 20 and have them all identified and have separate charges? Why only...
Whoa, if they're saying victims 1 through 20, that's a lot. That's way more than what Diddy had, right? Diddy only had victim 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. These people got victims 1 through 20? I mean, if that's 20 victims that they have plus, that is a lot of victims, y'all. This is crazy, but y'all, let's continue.
They list 6.
It could be that the grand jury didn't feel like they had enough information about the other women. It could be that the prosecution didn't present sufficient information to the grand jury. Remember, the grand jury is the one who's making the decision on these charges.
Right.
So it's either the grand jury didn't see that there was enough, or maybe the prosecution thought that some of the cases would be harder to prove for one reason or another, and so they didn't focus on those with the grand jury.
I want to ask you about the sex trafficking. Okay, so we spoke to the defense attorney who's representing Tal Alexander. Her name is Deanna Paul. And here's what she had to say regarding these latest allegations. Quote, "The new superseding indictment changes nothing. It's a reheated version of the same case and still does not include conduct that amounts to federal sex trafficking. The government is trying to stretch a statute beyond recognition to fit a narrative, not a crime." So when you hear that argument, John, right, this doesn't amount to federal sex trafficking. What would you say as a former prosecutor? Because when you think about it from a defense perspective, do you think there's grounds to say how?
Now, let me say this, you guys. Let me turn the camera. Let me say this, because I do think that the federal government was reaching a little bit too far with Diddy's case, because these charges that he got charged with, I mean, to me, they could have picked out some better charges. Now, I don't know much. I'm trying to learn about these brothers now, the three brothers that are twins, and then the third brother. I'm trying to, learn about them and learn what they've done, this, that, and the third. But what if the feds are reaching a little bit too far? Because remember with the Diddy trial, they were trying to make victim number 3, which was Gina Han. They were trying to make Gina Han be a victim. And that's why Gina was like, I'm not going up there and testifying. If I go up there and testify, y'all, the prosecution team, they may not like me, because I may be good use for the defense team. But like I said, I'm just learning about these brothers, and I want to follow their story because I want to know exactly what they were doing. Because sometimes it seems like, when people got a lot of money, they'll figure out something to try to take them down. Sometimes, allegedly. But if they did these awful things, of course, they need to go to court and, get their due justice or whatever, and let these victims speak as to what happened to them. But y'all, let's continue.
How is this a commercial sex act? How is it that force, fraud, and coercion were being used? I mean, is this a unique way to charge individual? Because I think the classic, I've talked about this a lot with people, when people think sex trafficking, they think of this shadowy organization that kidnaps young girls from another country, sells them to other people. This is a little different. What's your response to that defense that you heard from Tal Alexander's attorney?
Yeah, it's an interesting point that she makes, and I think the devil is going to be in the details on this one. I mean, it sounds like, this is somewhat reading between the lines of the complaint or the indictment. The actual, commercial sex act we usually think of as, kind of more traditional prostitution, maybe pornography, that sort of thing. This sounds like there is the allegation that it has to do with kind of non-traditional payments to women by either promising them certain trips or certain luxury items, maybe some payments after the fact in the form of concert tickets or other types of gifts.
Oh, so they were possibly like paying for these women to get their cheeks clapped, and then, I'm going to buy you a concert ticket, or I'm going to buy you this, or I'm going to buy you that. But y'all, let's continue.
It is definitely not the traditional way to charge sex trafficking or the traditional facts that support sex trafficking. But, it seems to qualify under the statute. What a jury thinks of it could be a different story.
Well, look, the allegations are heinous. So what I'm about to say doesn't take away from what the allegations are. But if somebody says I was in a romantic relationship with somebody, they took me on a trip, they paid for my meals, they bought me clothing, they bought me jewelry, and they also sexually assaulted me, you could say that's a classic sexual assault case at a state level. Could they also be charged with sex trafficking? Because if you look at, the conspiracy charge, right, it explains how the brothers conspired to recruit or harbor or transport these women to benefit financially, receive something of value from participating in this venture. You tell me what you think that might be, because the counter argument is, again, they partied with these women, they traveled with them, they brought them drinks, airfare, lodging. How is this sex trafficking? So I guess the question is it being extended beyond what it was meant to be?
I think that what the prosecution is probably looking at is if these women are being fraudulently promised something like, these luxury trips or whatever else is being used to induce them to come to these parties or come to these events, and really the plan all along.
And these guys, they had a lot of money. If they wanted to sleep with a woman and say, I'm going to buy you a trip to Italy, I'm going to buy you a trip to Paris, I'm going to buy you a trip to Dubai, they had so much money, those trips and paid things that they were paying them wouldn't even hurt or put a dent in how much money they had, because they were filthy rich. But y'all, let's continue.
Was to drug them and rape them. That would seem to be consistent with sex trafficking. There may be a different version of events from the defense, but if that's what they're basing it on, it doesn't seem like that much of a stretch from the more historical use of sex trafficking, which is maybe say you promise, migrant workers, work when they get to the U.S. and it turns out they have to live in a brothel. That may be like an easier way to wrap your head around sex trafficking.
Right.
But if these women are being promised something to come,
Hey, my baby says pure survival. Yeah, they're playing with my YouTube today, y'all. But we gonna keep going.
to these events, and really the plan all along is for them to be raped, that would seem to qualify.
For this charge, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, is it? And hopefully I'm reading it correctly. Do the defendants, the brothers, have to benefit financially from this? Receive something of value from participating in this venture?
They don't have to receive anything of value from participating in, but there does have to be some sort of evidence of the conspiracy. I mean, you do have to be able to show.
My baby Jamil said these three guys were vicious. Yes, they were very, very vicious. It was crazy. It was crazy. I'm telling you, these guys, they were doing all kind of things and they had the money to back whatever they wanted these women to do. If they wanted to clap these women's cheeks or whatever, be nasty and disgusting, and then try to be nice and say, oh, I'll pay for you a trip for here to a baseball game or wherever. They had the money to do it. But y'all, let's continue. Come in the building and smash the like button, y'all.
That there was some sort of communication or agreement between the two of them, the three of them, to do this sort of thing.
Okay, and that's probably where you talk about the devil in the details, the alleged text messages between them, talking about what they're planning, what they're procuring. Those would be the allegations. But I want to continue looking at count one here because the indictment lists a bunch of overt acts. So these specific methods that the brothers allegedly used to further this conspiracy. When you're talking conspiracy, it's not just an agreement. You have to take certain steps. So those are luxury recruitment, drugging, physical restraint, interstate transport, third-party involvement. For luxury.
Oh, wow. So they had a lot going on. Okay. They had a whole lot going on. So these brothers, like my baby said, these brothers were vicious. Y'all, when you have money and these moguls, I mean, they had a lot of power too because they were moguls. They were real estate moguls. They had a lot of power. So they were doing whatever they wanted to do to these women. But y'all, let's continue.
Recruitment. The indictment reads, at times, the Alexander brothers arranged for these sexual acts well in advance using the promise of luxury experience, travel, and accommodations to lure and entice female victims to locations where they were forcibly raped or sexually assaulted. We talked about that. They're further accused of drugging victims with substances as strong as GHB. The indictment alleges in advance of the event, the Alexander brothers and others.
Wait a minute. Isn't GHB what was used in the Diddy case, the Diddy trial with all of them people that was involved? They were using GHB too? Yo, I don't know. This is crazy, y'all.
Drugs that they agreed to provide to the women and girls, including, among other things, cocaine, mushrooms, and GHB. On multiple occasions during these events and trips, the Alexander brothers and others surreptitiously drugged female victims' drinks. So you're seeing how this is now escalating beyond just what I was talking about before, a classic example. But again, John, just thinking about defenses here, if we are talking about mind-altering substances being involved, does that affect a victim's credibility at all? If some of the alleged victims were under the influence of substances, can we rely on their accounts?
Well, it's a good question. It depends on what the evidence is that they have, and we just don't know that at this point. I mean, it's not uncommon to prosecute even just traditional sexual assaults that have the use of date rape drugs, and there's other things that you can do to corroborate. Even the fact that if there is something like GHB in somebody's system, that certainly looks like evidence of something that's non-consensual or a sexual assault versus, somebody who just was.
I think GHB too is a very, very powerful drug from what I understand, but y'all, let's continue.
Intoxicated or something like that. So it certainly can be done. We'll have to wait and see what the evidence is.
If they might have felt something afterwards or said something to someone afterwards or were told something afterwards, you can put two and two together. I mean, how many times do we have cases that are circumstantial evidence? We might have in a murder case a video of somebody actually stabbing somebody, right? But you put the circumstances together and you can understand what might have ultimately happened here. Again, innocent until proven guilty, but you're seeing how prosecutors are going to move forward with it. Now, I mean, because one of the things it says is some of the victims experienced symptoms of impaired physical and mental capacity, including limitations of movement and speech and incomplete memories of events. So just something to keep in mind. And then we have this aspect.
Oh, wow. Was all of that due to the GHB drug, y'all? Impairment? Hold on, you guys. Hold on, because that was a lot. What in the world? Mental capacity, including limitations. Oh my goodness, y'all. Hold on, let's play that back, because this is crazy.
It says that some of the victims experienced symptoms of impaired physical and mental capacity, including limitations of movement, speech, and incomplete memories of events. So just something to keep in mind.
Oh, wow. Y'all put a 1 in the chat if you guys know what GHB does to you. Is this the result of using GHB? Impaired physical and mental capacity, including limitations of movement and speech and incomplete memories of events. Y'all, that sounds like a powerful drug. Let's continue, y'all. Smash the like button.
Then we have this aspect of physical restraint. So the indictment mentions that allegedly, at times, the defendants physically restrained and held down their victims during the rapes and sexual assaults and ignored screams and explicit requests to stop. Now, how does that language, John, change the whole game for prosecutors?
From an optics standpoint, it makes the nature of these sexual assaults more horrific. It certainly was inflammatory, I presume, with the grand jury, and could be with the regular jury as well, but it also feeds into the element of force for sex trafficking.
Yes, force, fraud, coercion. And as for interstate transportation, quote, on some occasions, after the women and girls accepted the invitations to attend a particular event, the Alexander brothers transported women and girls and caused women and girls to be transported across state and international lines. Why is that important? Is that a necessary element for any sex trafficking case? Why is that important?
It's not necessary for a sex trafficking case, for the actual elements of sex trafficking, but it is for another type of charge in the federal law that hasn't been charged. So I'm not entirely clear why it's something that's referenced in the complaint. If there is a legal requirement for it, Jesse, it's not.
Thank you, loving myself. Loving myself says 30 views and 8 likes. Come on, get the likes up. Yes, y'all. We know that YouTube is playing because nobody's really talking about these boys, these brothers. But y'all, these brothers is about to come up soon in the news because they are due to go to court in February. So I'm trying to get a little bit ahead of the game, even though they're not sending that many people in. But thank you, loving myself. Yes, y'all smash the like button like loving myself said, and let's continue.
Not something that I'm aware of.
By the way, we're going to jump back to John in a second, but after we did this interview, he threw us a little note, said that he thinks the trafficking across state lines issue is what gives the feds jurisdiction. Now, it's not required for the crime, but without it, it would probably be a state trafficking issue. All right, let's go back to John. It's in the Diddy case, too, so I guess that question of transportation is key. I want to ask you about this, though, the network. So it's mentioned this network, right? Others known, unknown. Who could they be referring to, and why are those people not charged alongside the Alexander brothers?
Yeah, look, a lot of times in these kind of, if we can call them sex trafficking rings, which we don't know if that's fair or not, but in other types of cases where we do have sex trafficking rings, there are often a number of other very wealthy individuals that are participants in these parties, that are participants in the sexual assault. Can be friends, colleagues, that sort of thing, but we just don't have enough information to know.
Yeah, it says the defendants and other men attending the trips pooled financial resources in order to pay for flights and other travel expenses for the women and girls. It makes me wonder, same question I had in the Diddy case.
Oh,
do you
wow.
have people more cooperative?
They say the women and the girls. Hold on, y'all. Do y'all see that? They said they paid for flights for the women and girls. So I wonder if this is more than just one girl or one underager, one minor. It must be more than one minor, y'all. Oh my goodness. And if it is more than one minor, y'all, they might as well just go ahead and just get mentally prepared to spend the rest of their lives in prison, possibly. I don't know, but y'all, let's continue.
travel expenses for the women and girls. It makes me wonder,
Wow.
same question I had in the Diddy case is, do you have people who are cooperating with the government, right? And are going to make those ties and maybe help explain certain financial transactions or wire transfers or other ways of sharing money or what it means by pooling resources and why they spent money the way that they did. I have to imagine that they need more cooperators in a case like this to really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. That's a common thing in particularly in federal prosecution of these types of claims. There could be more charges for individuals, but sometimes with those cooperating individuals, you wait and see what their level of cooperation is, how much that cooperation helps the prosecution, and then if there are charges for those individuals, we'll see them more towards the end of the case.
Yeah, it says the defendants and other men organizing the trip then contacted the women and girls, including through social media or dating applications, and induced the women and girls to attend by, among other things, offering to purchase their flights, making other travel arrangements, and or providing accommodations without charge. So now I want to move on to the other counts here. So the counts are all generally read the same here, except for count 5, which we're going to get into, but for example, you have count.
So I noticed how they saying girls, you know, the women and girls, women and girls. Y'all, these boys are gonna be in trouble. These brothers are gonna be in trouble. Let them have all of these girls that were underage at the time come and testify. Y'all, they gonna be throwing them the books. But y'all, let's continue. And this is a federal charge. They are in the federal jail at the NDC with Diddy awaiting their trial, which I believe is in February 2026.
Count 2 accuses Tal Alexander of sex trafficking a woman referred to as victim 1 around July of 2011. Counts 3, 4 accuse all the brothers of sex trafficking a woman referred to as victim 2 and also inducing her to travel from Illinois to New York to engage in unlawful sexual activity. That's around September of 2016. Counts 6 and 7 allege that all 3 brothers trafficked women referred to as victims 4 and 5. That's around June of 2009. And counts 8 and 9 allege that Tal trafficked a woman referred to as victim.
Wow, so this is even going back to 2009? Oh my goodness, y'all, this is years ago. But y'all, let's continue. These feds is not playing, but hopefully this is, you know, true and valid what they're saying, because like I said, the feds, they kind of disappointed me with this Diddy trial, even though we know Diddy was he was a monster. He was doing bad things to these women, but these boys right here, if they talking about the minors, I mean, Diddy, didn't do as much as, what they said he was doing with, because, they said Diddy had minors, but we never seen minors. But in this court case, in these documents, they are saying girls and women and girls. So this is what this is. I mean, really, really being called out. But y'all, let's continue.
6 lured her from Nevada to New York. That's around August of 2014. But count 5 is a unique one in that it accuses Alon and Tal of trafficking a minor referred to as victim 3 in May of 2009. I want to get into all this right now. I want to start with the alleged minor one because that's incredibly serious and different from the others. Because according to the indictment, it says in May of 2009, Tal and Al Alexander allegedly trafficked a girl who was a minor under 18 years of age, and something in the indictment reads, having had reasonable opportunity to observe the person, that the person had not attained the age of 18 years. John, what does that mean? Reasonable opportunity to observe that the person had not attained the age of 18 years.
So in a lot of child sex assault charges, you have a requirement of knowing that the victim is actually not of age to consent. In these federal sex trafficking statutes, it's slightly different. You've had reasonable opportunity to observe this person. So that's the only requirement. It's not that you knew that they were underage. It's that you had the opportunity to observe this individual and they are not underage. So it's a lower requirement for showing your culpability in terms of your mental state of knowing whether or not the person was under 18 or under the age of consent.
For hypothetical purposes, if that alleged victim told them that she was 20 years old or 20, okay? Or if someone told them, hey, she's 20 years old, I checked her ID and she had a fake ID. I don't know the circumstances of this, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Would that be sufficient to overcome this and defend this charge?
It could. I think that it depends on the age of the child and what they look like. If you have an 8-year-old saying they're 20 years old, then that's not going to fly. But if you have somebody who looks like they could be, of a negligible age, around the age of consent, and the facts that you just laid out were evident, then that certainly could be a defense to the charge.
And the problem with this charge for them, right? The problem with this, well, for one of these brothers, is the no consent defense, right? So consent could be a defense to all of the other sex trafficking charges, but when you're dealing with an alleged minor, that doesn't work anymore. And then, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't.
Facts. Anytime there's a minor involved in a situation like this, it's not gonna ever look good for the person who is up for these charges. But y'all, let's continue, because this not looking good for these brothers from what I see. But let's continue.
Like that, I think I'm pretty accurate about that. And then it becomes a question: what could their defense be?
Yeah, and consent is really not a defense to the other charges as well. When we look at sex trafficking, we look at what's the conduct of the trafficker, not so much what's the consent of the victim. For example, you can have cases where very heavily exploited individuals are like forced or coerced into sexual activity. It may be consensual sexual activity, or I shouldn't even say it like that.
Well, then it's not consensual. Then it wouldn't be consensual. I mean, that's the thing. In the end of the day, it wouldn't be consensual. I'm talking like straight up. I saw it in the Harvey Weinstein case too, right? There was a lot of questions about why were they going with him to X, Y, and Z? Why did they keep coming back? The whole focus was it consensual or not? And if they're saying, look, I know what I'm being accused of, but they knowingly came on these planes. They knew what was happening. They knowingly took drugs. Now they're coming out after the fact.
But were they forced to do this? Were they forced to do this, or were they doing it on their own free will? See, this is what they would have to prove. But y'all, let's continue.
It could be a very tough road for them, a very tough uphill battle. But again, there's no consent when it comes to a minor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think, one thing that we'll probably see out of this is a defense kind of along the lines of what you just described. Like, look, these were, adult women that made their decisions. They wanted to come party with the Alexanders. They did drugs, and now this is...
And y'all, did I not say that this is what some women and even men do? With these women, they get around these rich men, and then they want to be all in their face. They want to do all these other things. Some of them will cry, wolf, after they don't get what they want. Or when something big happens, they want to kind of jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, he made me do this. He made me do that. Did he really make you do that? Or were you consenting because he was a rich person? Now, this is what we found out with Diddy. Mia, she was with the smoke. She was doing all these things, messaging him, making him birthday videos, doing scrapbooks. But then when it came time for her to holler wolf, like, Diddy grape me? But then we seen in court where she was doing all of the text messaging, begging Diddy, chasing after him, calling him, texting him, all these things. So I feel like certain people, certain females, they will throw in the towel when they feel it's at their disposal. When they feel it's good for them to say, oh, he did this, oh, he did that. But did you enter into the situation free and willingly as a grown, participating adult, consenting adult? Sometimes we have to look at that. Sometimes these women, they can be vicious too. They have game too. But y'all, let's continue.
Twisted around on them by these overzealous federal prosecutors. That's what we expect the defense to be. It's not something that you can allege when it comes to a minor. So that's going to be a much harder allegation to defend.
Do they just have to say, we have no idea who she is and none of this ever happened? That's their best bet?
Maybe they say she misrepresented her age. Maybe they say, that was one thing that was central in the Matt case.
But one thing I can say, you guys, let's just be for real. Let's be honest. A person knows if this person is a minor or not. I mean, you tell me there's a 15, 16-year-old girl and you telling me you don't know if that is a minor or not in your presence. I don't believe that. I don't believe that somebody, a grown person, a grown adult, doesn't know that there is a minor in their presence. They can't, you can tell when somebody's a 15, 16-year-old person, a child. I mean, let's be for real, let's be honest. But y'all, let's continue.
Case investigation as well of, what was the representations made about the age of the individual. Maybe they try something like that, but it's certainly hard to paint this theme of, look, we were just partying with these girls that like to party, and now this is being, manipulated by an overzealous prosecutor.
So now we have the other allegations, the other counts. So you fast forward to July of 2011. This one is specific to only Tal Alexander, accusing him of trafficking victim 1. The indictment alleges he caused victim 1 to engage in at least one commercial sex act, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that victim 1 was engaging in the commercial sex act as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. Then we have counts 3 and 4, along with 8 and 9. All of these pertain to victims 2 and 6. They deal not only with sex trafficking, but also with inducing or allegedly inducing these women to travel across state lines for illegal sex acts. Regarding victim 6, the indictment alleges that around August of 2014, Tal Alexander persuaded, induced, and enticed victim 6 to travel from Nevada to New York. Tal Alexander could engage and attempt to engage in unlawful sexual activity with victim 6. As for victim 2, the indictment alleges that in September of 2016, Alan Alexander, Orrin Alexander, Tal Alexander persuaded, induced, and enticed victim 2 to travel from Illinois to New York so Alan, Orrin, and Tal could engage and attempt to engage in unlawful sexual activity with victim 2. When you hear that...
So all 3 of these boys was doing like a threesome, tag teaming each other and having sex with this one woman or girl, lady. Y'all, this is crazy. This is really crazy. But y'all, let's continue. We're going to finish out this video, even though YouTube is playing with my, pushing out my, what's it called? Followers or whatever. I mean, they're not pushing out my people. But y'all, let's continue.
Prosecutors establishing that pattern.
Hey, Arlen, Lord. Right? See now I done told on YouTube. Now they letting everybody in. Lord says salute to you. All in says, hey TL, it's so many seemly as if it never stops. Wow, yes. These boys are a mess. They are 3 brothers, and they have been accused of sex trafficking of minors and also doing, sexual, situations with grown women. But what stands out in this situation is they're saying minors. So y'all, let's continue because this is crazy, and I'm getting ahead of the game. That's why YouTube is not pushing out my notifications. They're not allowing people in for some reason, but this story isn't like really hot and popping yet, but I'm getting ahead of it because in February, this is when these boys go to court. And y'all, I'm telling you, if me and my baby can be there at this court hearing, I really want to go. I believe it's going to be at 500 Pearl Street where Diddy's trial was at. They are in the hands of the feds at the MDC with Diddy right now. But y'all, let's continue. These are 3 brothers. They are filthy rich real estate moguls, and they were sex trafficking women and children along their years. And from what I can recall, going all the way back to 2009. So y'all, they've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I don't know, Lord says, I know, right, Lord? So they've been doing that for a very long time. Now, I don't know when it was when they were like the feds were kind of, giving the heads up and, giving the little, the light to go off to say, hey, these brothers been sex trafficking women. They sex trafficked me back in 2009. I don't know when these people, these women kind of came forward and told and the feds got the intel, but y'all, they arrested them. And they just transported them earlier this year to the MDC with Diddy. So y'all, these brothers are doing worse stuff than Diddy. They have minors involved in here. And if these minors were really minors and they come to speak and say and share and testify against these brothers, y'all, these brothers can like hang it up. They can put the night lights out and just get prepared to live in prison for the rest of their lives. And these are filthy. They probably, I don't know if they have more money than Diddy, but they were filthy rich, and they are filthy rich real estate moguls from Florida, and they had a real estate business that was popping. So y'all, let's continue.
It is, and it's part of the pattern they lay out in count 1. But I think that's what changes this from a collection of sexual assaults that happen to have, related offenders into something that looks at least.
And I do want to say, okay, All In said this is going to be really deep. Yes, that's why I'm trying to get ahead of this. I did a video earlier when they got transported earlier this year, but I had fell off from them because other stuff was going on with Diddy. But now I'm back on them trying to hit it early because in February, y'all, is going down for them. They're going court, but these guys, is three of them. These two right here. It's one more. It's a set of twins and then one brother. So these twins and the brother, which is total three brothers, a set of twins and one, are over there at the MDC with Diddy, y'all. So y'all, let's continue. This is getting crazy.
It's on paper more like a planned sex trafficking ring.
If there is a weakness in the account of any of these alleged victims, does that weaken the entire case? And tell me if I'm right about that. Does it become all the more important about who you...
And y'all, what's so crazy about this? I found out one of these twins are married, and I think they just had a child, I want to say earlier this year when they got transported. And they were trying to beg the judge, can you just let me out? I have a child. I got a wife. Oh, sir, you have a wife and you was doing all of these nasty, disgusting things, and now you want to be let out because you got a baby, a new baby. One of these twins, I believe one of the twins has a new baby. And I will have to, I'm doing more research as this is coming out because like I said, this situation is starting to kind of heat up because they are due in court in February. So I know they probably have to go to court for some type of, some type of something probably between now and February. But y'all, this situation is so crazy. But y'all, let's continue because when it comes to the minors, y'all know they are going to get the books thrown at them. But let's continue, you guys.
Call as your first or second witness.
Well, I think it's probably, yes, it certainly can. I mean, it depends on what the weakness is. If it's a lack of memory, then maybe no, it doesn't infect the others. But if it's something like there's a number of civil lawsuits that have been filed that we know of that are related to this. If there's something that makes one of the victims look like they're really out for money more than anything, that's the kind of thing that could taint larger perception of the case. And in regards to witnesses...
And this is what I said. There is some women out there, they are with the smoke, y'all. Let's just be for real. Let's be honest. Let me turn the camera real quick. Just like he said, if they're trying to do it for money. There's women out there. I mean, I'm just going to say 50 Cent baby mama. She was saying on the stand when they asked her, well, how much was the purse that I think Diddy bought for her? And she said, well, how much is my body worth? We know those juicy girls, they are with the smoke. Those are the type of women, they were be desperate. I mean, they will almost kill to go and sleep with these moguls, these rich men. And then whenever it's, they feel the time is right for them to holler, cry, and sling snot because they didn't get what they wanted, they will say that they were raped and they were, all DV'd and essayed and all these other things. But with this situation, y'all, from what I'm understanding, it seems like there's about 20 or more victims plus minors. So I can't say for this situation because with Diddy, there was only 3 victims, 4 or 5 or something like that. A couple of workers that he had and stuff. But these 3 men, they have over, I believe, if I'm understanding right, over 20 women and plus minors, female girls that were victims of these 3 brothers. But y'all, let's continue.
I would presume that the prosecution has been very selective about which indictments they've been seeking in terms of, we talked about how there's dozens of women that are potentially at issue here. I imagine the prosecution has been selective about which ones they've sought indictments for and trying to avoid ones that they think might have problematic credibility issues.
When I think about the Alexander brothers, this case, it's just so eerily similar to what we've been seeing in other allegations. I mentioned the Combs case, right? Why haven't they been charged with RICO, racketeering, if they're talking about this conspiracy to sex trafficking?
That is a good question, Jesse. That is a good question. Why aren't they charged with a RICO if they're 3 brothers, if they have an operation type thing going on? Because they were saying in earlier in the documents that all 3 of the brothers were trying to sleep with one of the women that they flew in. So if that's an organized type of situation, yes, why weren't they charged with a RICO? I mean, I don't know. Is there other people that were helping? What is it called? helping like abating and I forget the name, but was there other people included in this operation? Were they other people like his assistants, setting up plane tickets, setting up transportation to get them to and from wherever they were, getting these women's cheeks claps? I don't know. But if it was, why didn't they charge them with a RICO instead of just like, sex trafficking of a minor and sex trafficking of women? I mean, that's a good question. But y'all, let's continue. Accessory, yes, accessory, HEPA, yes, accessory to the crime, to the people. But y'all, let's continue.
And this network of sex trafficking, why haven't they been charged with a RICO violation, racketeering?
That's a very good question. In general, RICO statutes and prosecutions are more complex than just the trafficking. They may have wanted to keep it simple, but it's a good question for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they might not have those.
Yeah, there you go. All in says invading and abetting. Yes, if there are people that were aiding and abetting this operation, they had like people, like I said, setting up the operation. Because remember with Diddy, we thought, hold on, let me turn the camera. Remember, like I thought at least with Diddy, remember they were saying KK was, helping do this, helping, like they were saying all these things, but then KK never showed up. There was people who they're saying that responsible for setting up the transportation, this, that, and the third. So we're like, where are these people at? So is this the same situation? Like, are they going to have people coming up and saying, maybe turning into a RICO? I don't know. But where are these people? If they were there helping, aiding and abetting this situation with these girls getting across state lines, across whatever, getting to certain places, transporting them, getting there, the kids, especially the minors. Who was in charge of the minors? I mean, who was in charge of the minors? Where were these minors' parents at for them to be going over there? Were they getting paid off because they were sacrificing their children and the mothers getting paid a certain amount, almost like Justin Bieber and Usher? I mean, I truly believe they were like, taking money to give, their kids to Hollywood. Is this like the same thing kind of like per se? Makes you wonder. But y'all, let's continue.
Predicate crimes, like in the Combs case, where they talk about alleged instances of kidnapping or forced labor or things of that. Although what's being described in this indictment, I could imagine they could have put together a racketeering case, but maybe it didn't quite fit. Maybe they weren't necessarily using their business resources to allegedly further criminal activity. It's interesting. But anyway, let me ask you this before I let you go. Oren and Alon, they face additional state charges in Florida for 3 alleged assaults. They've been charged alongside their family friend, Ohad Fisherman, who's been accused of acting as an accomplice.
Oh, see, here's the accomplice. Oh, so there's somebody else? Okay, that was accomplished. Okay, let me get his name again. Hold on. Let's get his name again.
Before I let you go. Oren and Alon, they face additional state charges in Florida for 3 alleged assaults. They've been charged alongside their family friend, Ohad Fisherman, who's been accused of acting as an accomplice. Pleaded not guilty. Actually, according to the New York Times, Ohad Fisherman's actually going to be heading to trial next month. When you think about those state...
Oh, so I have to follow him because he's going to trial next month. So he's going to be the first one on the chopping block. So y'all, we have to follow this case. Oh my goodness. Lord says, oh, they from the Middle East. Yes, it looks like they are from the Middle East, Lord. And it looks like, I think they showed a picture, I believe, before of their father. He looks like he is of Middle Eastern descent. But y'all, this situation is crazy. Is the father even going to be charged? Was he doing stuff too? Because I mean, this is like almost like a whole RICO. If you really look at it, like they said, why didn't they charge them with a RICO? But y'all, let's continue because he's going to court next month. So y'all, we got to be on it.
Charges. How does that affect this case at all, the federal case, when you think about that interplay?
Yeah, well,
oh, you're welcome, Lord. Yes. And Lord says, thanks for covering this. I'm about to investigate too. Yes, Lord, if you find out anything the next time we go live or maybe in this video, in the comments, leave any information or even anybody. If you guys find out any information about these boys, I'm still investigating. Lord says she's going to investigate too. Drop any kind of information that y'all find out and we can collaborate on this together, on these boys, because this is going to be a huge huge case right here. It's 3 boys plus this other guy, and I'm gonna see, are they gonna bring their father in it? Because I seen their father in a picture with them too. But y'all, let's continue. This is gonna be juicy, y'all.
Complicates it for sure for the Alexander brothers. In general, if you have charges pending in multiple jurisdictions, if it's all state charges, sometimes you can resolve cases collaboratively between the jurisdictions. The feds don't do that quite as much as you see in the state cases. So the only thing that'll be interesting is to see which of the two has priority. Quite often, the feds will kind of take priority over the prosecution, and the state has to wait, which can be.
But what is so crazy to me, like I said, I do know that one of these brothers I think they're married and just had a child, I believe, earlier this year, and he was begging the judge to let him out, and I think he was trying to offer money for bail, I believe. I have to go back because, like I said, Diddy's situation got in the way, Umar got in the way, and I kind of lost track of these brothers because I did a video earlier this year on them. But this is when they first got hot and popping, but now they really start to get hot and popping, so we're trying to get ahead of it because in February is when they go to court, and y'all know that, like they said, this other guy, he's going to court next month, and these are federal charges. So y'all, they're going to be in the federal court. We don't know when exactly the 3 brothers are going to go to court, but we know this other guy is going to court, they said, just next month. But let's continue, y'all.
Detrimental to their case, but it could be a long process.
If this reporting is accurate and Fisherman goes to trial first, I wonder whether or not, if he gets a guilty verdict and extensive prison time, or he pleads guilty, again, thinking about a potential cooperator with the government in the federal case.
Yeah, well, and it certainly can be a harbinger for what the jury thinks of these cases. A lot of times, defense attorneys will look and see how companion cases resolve in front of a jury, and that gives them some insight into what a jury might think of their clients.
John Clune, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Jesse.
And that's all.
So that's all we have for this. I'm going to be I'm going to get on this like right now. As soon as I get off live, I'm going to find some more videos and some more information, some more articles and information on these brothers, because y'all, this situation is going to be probably big like Diddy. So I want to get on top of it because, like I said, these brothers, the 3 brothers, are at the MDC with Diddy. They were transported there earlier this year. And like I said, I did a video of them being transported earlier this year, but now that it's getting closer, now we're going to see what is going to entail. Are they going to be going back and forth to court to be doing like little hearings to for gathering information, the victims and whatever else? Because sometimes that's what they do before their court case starts. They are like kind of in and out of court, like sometimes here and there, just to try to be prepared for their actual court date. And like I said, if I'm not mistaken, these brothers, the 3 brothers, are going to court February 2026 for their trial. And this is probably going to be at 500 Pearl Street in the Manhattan federal court building where Diddy's court case was. I'm thinking, if I'm understanding correctly, but I will let you guys know. But thanks for stopping in. Y'all do y'all research. Y'all can collab. We can, see what we find out about these brothers, because there's like a lot of deep stuff going on with these brothers. And since 2009, they have been doing this disgusting behavior. But y'all, thanks for stopping in. Always lead with love, peace, and tranquility, y'all. And I will see y'all in the next live. See y'all. Bye-bye.